remains of humans. And this is the oven. There were a lot of more ovens. This one they were filling with a lot of stones and schiffer, and they were hacking them to small pieces, then packing them inside with firewood underneath. And when it was filled up, they put a door in front of it and they started to burn it. And it took several weeks, and the oven was never silent. It sounded like there was a war in this, because there were fire sparkling all over. And they were doing all of this to have this material when they started to build stuff in Trollhättan too, in the water flow system they have there, and in other buildings too, because they were lying this in between the stones to fill it up. They don't know exactly how old this is, because in Halleberg and Hunneberg they have not digged out such big things. They are just saying, well, this is a monument and we are going to keep it this way. Don't enter it on your own risk because it can fall down. That's it. So the history around it, they don't look at it because it's Halleberg and Hunneberg. And then we have this famous Beowulf. He's in a lot of stories from this period. And Beowulf is a fairy tale, both from the Saxon and the Nordic mythology. Beowulf is also mentioned in Ynglingetten, and, well, I don't think I need this one. You know, for 12 years in Denmark they were fearing this giant Grendel, and in the biblical version his name Cain, but the Vikings, they were so afraid of this Grendel. So for 12 years they couldn't have a party at all. Utgård, there was Herod was his name, and he was protected by the asagods. So with parties he was the only one that survived, because Grendel, he got in and he smashed head around and he wanted to take the head off all the people. And Herod, he needed help. Some stories says that Beowulf was in a guild to Herod, but I can't find that story. So Beowulf went to Herod in Denmark just to make a name out of himself. He wanted to be remembered in the stories. He wanted to be famous. He wanted to be this giant warrior. And his name Beowulf is also meaning bear. So that's why his name is Beowulf. So we traveled there with his men, and he said we have to get this Grendel. We tried to trick him. So they started a party, and in the evening Beowulf was lying, just pretending to be asleep like a fox, and Grendel got in, and he took one of Beowulf's men and smashed his head. And all of Beowulf's warriors attacked Grendel, but Grendel, he didn't get any wounds by any sword. No metal hurt him. So Beowulf, he took his hands and he rushed out his arm, and it just flew away his arm. Grendel ran away, and they looked at his arm, and it was made out of iron and fish skin. So they took up his arm and hanged it on a wall. And Beowulf, he wanted the head. So he went away and tried to seek out where Grendel has got away. And Herod, he was so happy with this. Grendel was dead, and they could start a party again in his big long house on 50 meters. But Grendel had a mom, and she was more angry, nasty and deceitful than Grendel. And they think that Grendel was this evil just because his mother was so horrible to him. But she got mad, really mad, when she got her son in the forest and he was all hurt and didn't have an arm and he was dead. So she took him home, and then she attacked Herod. And Herod had to ask Beowulf for help once again when Beowulf got back. So Beowulf started to seek out his mother. The name is not mentioned in any story except mother. And he traveled to a lake, and the footstep stops. And he was thinking, oh my, I have to swim. And he started to swim down in the lake, and there were poisonous snakes all around him, and he got away from the snakes. And then when he got up in the cave, he saw Grendel's mom. And Grendel's mom, she was angry, she was really angry, and he tried to attack Grendel's mom with his sword, but the sword didn't hurt her at all. And he looked around and suddenly found a sword from a giant and took the sword and punched it through the mother. The sword got lost. It was just the handle left, and he took Grendel's mother's head and the head of Grendel with him up, and his men had to go and meet him up because the head was too heavy to handle his own. And he took it back to Herod, and he was so amazed and lovely. The thing about this story is Beowulf got home later, and later on it's the war at the ice that we told in another story from Kinnekulle and Skara. But they have found in Denmark graves without, the people are without heads. The head are loose from the body. And they have found this big house, 50 meters, in around that area. And the same time period, 500 years, the year 500, when Beowulf and Herod was alive. So maybe it's not just a fairy tale. Beowulf and the Dragon. It's a fairy tale that's made a lot of stories and a lot of movies, but the real story is that he was a slave when Beowulf was king. Many years after Denmark and Kinnekulle, the big battles, a slave ran away from his kingdom. And he went to a cave and he found a dragon. But the dragon was asleep. And it was so much gold. So the slave, he couldn't stand it. He just had to take one gold thing. I mean, think of all the money he would get. So he took one cup. And that cup was, in fact, the dragon's favorite. So the dragon woke up. And he got angry and he started to attack all around his kingdom people. So Beowulf, he put on his armor and he took his man with him. It was a strong man with him, but one knew. It was Vinland, and he was new at this, so they thought, well, he had to learn, so he had to come with. And when they entered the cave, the others were so frightening, they ran out, so Beowulf was left with Utgård in this battle, and the dragon, he hurt Beowulf. So Beowulf got hurt, and in the end of the story, Beowulf dies. But before he dies, he gives his crown to Utgård and says, you take over this landscape because you wasn't frightened. Keep my name alive. And then you can think like this. Is that true? Or was he just waiting in the cave until Beowulf died and took his crown and ran out? Who knows? Still, it's a good story, and dragons are mentioned so much in the Nordic mythology. year 640, Anund, King Anund, he was living around the area of Thurm and Halleberg and Hunneberg. He was angry at his father's death, so he went over there and, well, started to rule that area too. That became Värmland later on. So he ruled all of this area, but there was a problem around this place. It was hard to travel here. It took so many days and weeks to travel to this area. So he started to make roads and ways all over this area. So people started to build their houses and there were communities all around. And he was so happy. And the people were happy and it was calm. It was calm those years after that war. And well, he was a king of Ynglinget, and you know how it ends. Of course, he at Skytteklev, he started to move upstairs, but it was raining the days before, and a stone fall down and smashed him to pieces. At Skytteklev, and Skytteklev is a part of Halleberg and the wall of asagods. So also a king that was protected by the gods for a while, but then stopped. So his name Bröt Anund was not the only name he got. He got Himmelfjolum, and Himmelfjolum, in, if you change the name, is the meaning heaven's place, and heaven's place in, if you're thinking about the stories in Edda and the kings and queens and asagods, well then it's Heimdall, of course. And now we are in the forest of what's called Heimdall's home, because when we are looking at the maps and all the writings, we're near his home, because he was guarding Bifrost, the rainbow bridge, and had a horn that he was blowing when Ragnarök started. And from this place we can see all the way to the water, and we are going higher up to show you the pedestal chair that is really amazing if you're thinking about Bifrost. Heimdall had golden teeth, and he was the world. His name is described like the world, and he is from the two first oh, I forgot that one. But Heimdall, in Ragnarök, he is going to blow his horn, and then he's going to fight Loki, and when he and Loki fight each other, both of them dies directly. And if you look around, you can see a lot of stuff human made, but this one human didn't made. This is from itself, and it's kind of obvious if you're zooming in that one, the highest, you can see there human has been and created a wall. But this mountain is really old, and Heimdall is a big part of our nature. And if you think about it, it's not that stupid idea with Bifrost and Heimdall guarding, because Vänern has a lot of water, and with a lot of water there are rainbows, so it's not too far-fetched with Heimdall and his home. Siv didn't always have her golden hair. The story behind this, Loki, he loved playing tricks on the other gods, and one day he decided that he would chop off Siv's hair, because she had long hair, golden color, and everyone loved her hair. So when she woke up and started to have her hands in her hair, they were loose. All the hair was loose, and she got so upset and sad. And Thor, he got really mad at Loki. So he told Loki, if you don't fix this one, I'm going to beat you blue and yellow. That's a fact. And Loki understand this is for real. So he went and he got to the dwarfs, and the dwarfs started to fix golden hair for her. So she had not real hair, she had golden hair on her head instead after that. And it was growing just like normal hair too. So that's why they are saying it in Poetic Edda and other stories that Sif's hair means gold. The elves was also something that was also good and bad. The light elves, well, the ruler of them were afraid because he got that as a present when he got his first golden teeth. And if you were born with a little bit red on your cheeks and lightning eyes, then you were an old elf child. The elves were just not good, there were bad elves too, and those elves made cows and horses nervous, and if you got really sick you had been shot with an arrow from the dark elves. And the elves, we made a lot of plots and many things for the elves. We people, we were surrounded by elves in the forest. But nowadays we have forgotten it, and we were thinking all that it doesn't exist in our mythology, but it really does. It fits right into it, and elves were a big part of it. Did you know, one time Thrym, the giant, he got Thor's hammer and took it to the giant's place. And Thor got really upset, and all the asagods were afraid, because without Thor's hammer, how can they protect themselves? So Loki, he went to the giant Thrym and asked, how can we trade back the hammer? And Thrym said, oh, I want Freya as my wife. And Loki, he went home to the asagods and he said, well, we give up Freya and we got Thor's hammer back. And Freya, she got so mad that she started to scream and everyone went silent. And then Heimdall came and said, no, of course not. We tricked them instead. We are sending Thor as Freya. And Thor was like, no, I'm not putting on a dress like that. He got so offended. But after a while, they all decided that it was Thor who's going as Freya. Thrym. So Loki followed with, and it was really good that Loki was with, because when he arrived, he's eaten one big giant, not cow, the other word I don't remember it, and drink 2 cans of beers and 8 salmons. And Thrym was like, okay, what's wrong with Freya? Why is she eating so much? And so on. And Loki went, well, you know, she was so excited to get here and marry you, so she hasn't eaten for many days. And it was like, oh, okay. And the party went on, and then Thrym wanted to put up this fabric forehead over his head. He wanted to kiss Freya. But then he saw this lightning, angry eyes, and he rubbed back and went to Loki and said, what's wrong with Freya? And Loki said, well, I told you she hasn't eaten anything. And right before the ceremony, when they were going to kiss each other, he went and get the present then, Thor's hammer, to Thor. And Thor took the hammer and he smashed all of the giants. And there is this thinking that this story is made up by the Christians to mock Thor. But we who read history, we know that's not the fact. It's a Nordic story. Everybody loves a challenge, and Loki was not alone with the name Loki. There was an Utgård-Loki, and he was a giant too, but he wasn't as nice as Loki. He liked to have challenge in his fortress. So one day Loki and Thor and one more went over there to have this challenge. And I'm not getting all the story now. I'm just going to go to Thor's because it's the most important one. Because he got challenged in drinking a drinking horn, and he was like, oh my, this is easy. And he started to drink it, but as soon as he drank it, it filled up exactly the same amount of fluid as he had from the beginning. So he failed that one. And the other one was he was going to lift a cat, a big cat. And he tried to lift it so much he could, but the cat was always on 3 legs. And then he said, well, I have one last challenge for you, Thor. You are going to have to wrestle with someone. And Thor was thinking, oh, that's good, I'm good at that. And then it came an old lady, and he was like, oh, I can't fight her, that's wrong. But as soon as it started, how hard he even tried, he could just get the lady down on 1 knee, not 2, and not on the back. And afterward, this Utgård-Loki, he started to laugh. And he told him the drinking horn was a sea of the ocean that I was transforming into a drinking horn. And the cat he tried to lift was the Midgard snake that surrounded all of the world. And the old lady, well, it was elderness. You can't beat becoming elder. And that's a story that we talk a lot about in Sweden. We don't talk about the cat, the Midgard snake, or about the drinking horn, the water. We are always talking about the elder one. But all of them fit together, because if you think about it, without the magical power Thor had in that place, because the magical power disappeared as soon as they went to Utgård-Loki. Without the power, he was just like us, humans. And we can't beat it at all, can we? There are different stories about Valkyrie. There are many Valkyries, and one of them is Thor's daughter. Her name is Thrym. And the Valkyrie, they were always over the fightings, and they were thinking, oh, which one is the best fighter? We have to have that one to Freya's hall. And it was because when the Ragnarök would start, they wanted the best fighters in Ragnarök, because in Ragnarök all of the fallen warriors would rise up from Freya's hall and attack together with the asagods against Venus and the giants and everyone else they fear, the Midgard snake. But the Midgard snake in the end, well, it kills Thor and Thor kills it at the same time. So it's a good end and a bad end, it's depending on how you see it. Day and night they were chased about after Hate and Skoll. Hate is the son of Fenrisulven, really bad one. But there's a difference in the stories, because day and night got a horse, Rimfax, from Odin, and it had a, well, they say it was a black horse, and the fog in the morning was the only trace you could see of it, and he bring the night sky. And Sky Fox had a golden hair and was the one who was bringing up the light in the mornings. But in the later stories they are saying that it's only Rimfax that runs around with the sun and the moon every night. But the stories apart from each other. Day and night is sons of Nare, but in the stories of Edda they are saying it's from Nör. But in the end, Ragnarök, the wolf, Hate and Skorre, comes chasing and takes the sun away from the sky, because Rimfax wasn't fast enough that day. So that's the story about day and night. Yes, you are cute. Now we are back in the Doom Ring, and I am going to tell you why. Because Nornorna, Udrun, Verande and Skuld, they were living at the end of Yggdrasil, nearby the big Ting. And Ting were the Doom Rings. Norröna had different abilities. Third was the past, and Verdande was the present, and Skuld was the future. And these three are from Odin. Odin created them. And Ivalö, Spa, they are saying that they were not weaving a thread. They are saying that they were carvings of runes instead. But in every other story they are telling about this thread. And the thread began the second you was born. And they started to weave all of the future for you if you are going to become a great hero, a dealer, or someone really bad person. And they were telling the end of the story too. So it was not just humans, it was the gods, and it was the giants and the vendors, everyone. And it says that it was so much more of this, like for all the 9 words. So it wasn't just these 3, but these 3 persons was weaving. And it was not only the purpose to have, they were also giving water to Yggdrasil. Every day they took water and bring to the tree, so it would live and grow bigger and bigger. So the Norns were something everyone looked really high up on, and many humans could get upset because they were living a bad life and they were blaming the Norns. But they didn't care, because for them they were just weaving all of these stories, present, future and past. One day they were coming one golden figure to Asagod, and she was made out of gold, and the Asagod were thinking, well, we have to melt her down, we need this gold. So they burned her, and they were kind of frightening, because when they started the fire she just went through it, no scratch on her at all. And they tried 3 times, and then they understood they couldn't burn her. So they were making her leave Asagard and went to Midgard instead. And in Midgard she started to learn about magical stuff and runes to people. And the figures that got this And the figures that got this had a kind of staff with her. So is Völva, who learned this from her. She transformed herself to one old lady and ran around and just learned magic to upset Odin and the other gods. The dwarfs, they were living inside Ymir's body. They was not bright and they could not see and not hear anything. And the gods, well, they were thinking it's a waste of energy of life. So they were giving them speech and they were giving them thoughts and they were giving them signs. And then they started to build inside caves in underworlds. They were building their big halls and their, well, everything. They lived their lives there. Some dwarfs, they loved to be around humans, but the dwarfs who was only living in the caves, when they were too much in the sunlight, they turned to stone directly. The dwarfs have magical powers and they could make so much beautiful stuff out of gold, like Thor's hammer. Well, Thor's hammer is not just gold, but still it's a hammer, Sif's hair, Freya's ship, and Odin's Mjölnir, his spear. And the dwarfs, they were so powerful that the asagods, they feared them too. And some names that are from the asagods stories is Gandalf, like we hear in Tolkien stories, and a lot of those stories, people is dwarf names. And some funny names of the dwarfs is they were holding up the skies for the asagods, and then those 4 dwarfs' names were North, West, East and South. This rune stone is from 980 and it says, I raised this as a memory of day in Swedish, dag, my father, a good man, and it's 150 centimeters high and one of the rock carving stones in this area, and we are showing some more. This one's name is VG101 and it's in the area of Flu, and as you see you can't see behind, but we still have the big mountain of Hunneberg in the background. It's a lovely place. And here we have the rune stone. It's also dated from 980 until 1015. And this rune stone, it says Alvar made this memory stone for his brother Thor. And we are in a graveyard, and they have a church here, and the church in the area of Flu, that is nearby the mountains, has always been here since the Middle Age, but it's a new building today, but no remains left. They only have a chair left from the year 1600, so it's a lot later. But there's always been a church here after the Viking age. And this rune stone is VG100. And now we are going to show you another rune stone. Thor raised this stone after Karl, his company man, a very good and young man. And this one is VG112. But we are not traveling there today, we are just showing it as a picture. And here we are in the bottom of the Tudhem, in the lower ground of Halleberg and Hunneberg. And in this area you can see graves from the Iron Age, and even before that, I think, because they found elf holes too, that I talk about in the other event. What's special about this place is the stone settings have one ring around them, like a graveyard around them. The other stone setting are a lot of stones upon each other, but this one is a circle around their settings of everything they could find to put over the bodies. And they don't really know all because they haven't digged it out. But it's a lovely place and it's a memory, and this place becomes so much more in the Middle Age. Today Halleberg and Hunneberg is still alive and still something people use. It's many places to walk and have activities like running and bicycling, and they are making what's the name, where children can play in nature, one troll forest as they call it. And they have a museum here, and it's more a hunting museum because the kings in Sweden have had these places as hunting areas for many generations. And the place you come and visit first, if you go this way, is Hunneberga, and it's up on the mountain, and its name is Berga Farm. This place has been around for, well, they started it 1500, 15,000, year 15,000 they started it, and it's been an ongoing story around that too, but it's not something we bring up in our stories because it's too late and too far from the Vikings. But it's still a place you can visit and you can run around in and find all those foundings we've shown you, and just feel nature, because nature is the place in our home. We are not supposed to sit inside and watch a television. We are built to work with our body and move a lot of days. As same as the animals, we need to move to feel really good about ourselves. It's hard finding stuff, old stuff in Sweden, because many times they are hiding it from people and the authority, because they don't want it to get everything destroyed, vandalized, or nature start to rain on it and it disappears forever. But it's okay. But it's a lovely place. If you went to the other mountain, Halleberg, then it's going to be much harder to find stuff, but it's so much more historical things from the Vikings and the Iron Age and Stone Age on that side. This side is more roads. They have built smaller roads so you can run and bicycle, but everything is out there, so it's just out and hunt it down. It's been lovely having you with us, and we hope you're going to visit this mystical mountain. It's like other people say, you can either just believe in science, or you can believe in the unknown, as people say. The unknown, well, science we haven't believed in that long, but the unknown, the folklore and all of our mythology, we have believed in it for many, many, many generations before. So why not compare it and start to think, maybe it's more fact than fiction.